In this video, I'll show you how to integrate Lemon Squeezy into your Next.js project with Supabase database. I'll be going over how to set up your Lemon Squeezy account, adding checkout overlay or page, and updating the database once the payment is successful, and testing it all locally without actually having to publish and deploy it. If you're wondering why Lemon Squeezy over Stripe, well, Lemon Squeezy takes care of global compliance and taxes, while Stripe does not. And I found that Lemon Squeezy is more targeted towards small businesses and sole proprietorship. So if you're a solo founder or you're just one-person team, this might be a great fit for you. Let's start by setting up Lemon Squeezy. Once you've signed up for your account, you'll want to go through all these checklists that they have. Do them as soon as possible because it could take them a few days to verify your identity as well as approve your store. They might even email you like they did with me just to clarify the exact service and product that we're selling through our store. All right, so how do we get payouts from Lemon Squeezy? You need to set up your bank account on this platform. All you have to do is under settings, payouts, just connect up your bank account or PayPal account and you'll be able to easily receive payouts. Let's look at the design section. This is basically your checkout UI. You can customize it here really easily by overriding the styles. For example, if you wanted the background to be black, you just change it to black and you're good to go. To save this change, make sure to hit publish. Great, now that these changes are saved, what are we selling? Let's look at how we can add products to our store. So here I am under store, products, create a new product. Let's just do a single payment and we're just gonna name this starter. And for pricing, it's gonna be single payment, $5. Hit publish and you will have this new starter product. This product is now published in your test mode. You'll see that test mode is enabled here. If your account has not been verified and your store has not been approved, then all you'll be able to do is use Lemon Squeezy platform in test mode. If your account and store has been approved, then you can go ahead and hit copy to live mode. If you want to see how your product looks in the checkout page, all you'll have to do is hit this share button and it will show you a preview of what the checkout link will look like. I will be generating this link directly in Next.js project. And once the user have checked out, it will redirect the user back to the web application. On top of that, it will trigger a webhook, which will then allow me to talk with Supabase database and update the user's record, as well as enabling any paid features that the user needs access to. That said, let's take a quick look at the next project. Let's open it up. If the user is signed in, it will have a sign out. If we sign out, it will have a sign in button. And if we press sign in, I can type in the email that I'm using. I can go to my Gmail and Supabase auth has given me. And if I go to it, it redirects me right back to the landing page. And you can see that I am now signed in. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and set up our environment variables. In this environment.local file, I already entered my Supabase URL and iron key. Let's go ahead and grab the Lemon Squeezy API key. Go to Lemon Squeezy API under your settings menu, and then you'll want to click this plus. You'll name this one test and create API key. Copy this API key, paste this in. For the store ID, under setting and stores, you'll just grab this store ID, paste that in. As for Lemon Squeezy webhook secret, you can write any string here. Just keep in mind that we'll be using this one later when we actually set up webhooks. Go ahead and install Lemon Squeezy into your project. We're going to go ahead and create a Lemon Squeezy folder under lib. So let's do that now. And in here, I'm going to add server.ts file. Inside the server.ts file, we're going to create two functions. And the first one is going to be create new customer. Let's go ahead and import create customer from Lemon Squeezy. I'll also need to create the configure Lemon Squeezy function right here that is going to make sure that we have all the Lemon Squeezy environmental variables defined before we actually use Lemon Squeezy, and we add it to the import. This is important because anytime we are using Lemon Squeezy functions in a server context, we need to call this configure Lemon Squeezy in the server action before doing any Lemon Squeezy operations. And obviously, anything in this file should only be run on the server. The other function that I'm going to be adding here is the create checkout URL. And what this does is going to create the URL, which send the user to either a overlay or a direct link to the checkout page. I'm going to configure Lemon Squeezy. I'm also going to check that next public URL is there. And this create checkout, we're going to import this from Lemon Squeezy in a bit. It takes in the Lemon Squeezy store ID. I'm going to show you how to grab that from the Lemon Squeezy website. And then we're going to pass in the checkout option and checkout data. If this embed parameter is set to true, the URL that's returned is going to be for an overlay. If it's false, then it's going to be for a checkout page. Okay, and then we're going to add product options. The notable thing is the redirect URL right here. This just defines what happens once the payment is done and user clicks continue. Which page will Lemon Squeezy redirect the user back to? Here, we're just going to check that the returned object has a URL, and then we're going to return that URL. And don't forget to import the create checkout from Lemon Squeezy, as well as setting next public app URL environment variable to localhost 3000. Okay, so at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, how do we hook all this up? Well, let's do that right now. In the pricing page, go ahead and import these, as well as creating the page component. I am going to use the create checkout URL that we just created. And this variant ID, let's look at how I got this. If you go to your Lemon Squeezy store under products, and then you click this 3 drop down button on your product, you can copy the variant ID right here. And that becomes this. Set embed to false. I'll show you how to modify this so it becomes an overlay in the next section. I'm going to make sure that the user is authorized before actually pressing the buy button. And I'm going to return a simple link. I click buy now, and it's going to redirect me to the Lemon Squeezy checkout. And for the card number to test, you can use 424242424242. All I have to do is now hit pay. It's processing. Great. Press continue. It should redirect me back to the homepage. But now let's look at how to change this so it is an overlay checkout rather than a checkout page that we're redirected to. What I'll need to do is set this embed to true. Unfortunately, we're not able to keep the link like this, or else the overlay will just not work. What I'm going to have to do is under features pricing component, I'm going to create a new component called buy button.tsx. And this buy button is going to be a client component. It's going to take in children, checkout URL, and we're going to use an use effect. Don't worry about these TypeScript errors. I'm going to show you how to get rid of them in a moment, but we need to do this in order to create an overlay. And on handle click is going to open the URL. Then we're going to return the button. Go back to the page.tsx. We're going to replace this with our newly buy button. Okay. And to get rid of these TypeScript errors, create a type folder. And in here, I'm going to add these two interface. And this should get rid of that TypeScript error. Okay, so now that this has been implemented, let's check out whether this is working or not. Go to our pricing page. We have our buy now button. Let's click the buy now button. Okay, it's still not working. My bad. At the checkout URL, one thing I did forget to do, and if you are happening to encounter this error, this is because we forgot to add the script tag to the layout.tsx file at the root of the project. Just add the script here, deferred, and we're going to load the Lemon Squeezy JS right here. We go back to my button. There we go. We have the overlay, and it's going to direct me to hopefully the page. Okay. And here is the overlay checkout. If I close the page, I get right back to where I was. If you remember, in the home page, we have this has user paid question. Let's go ahead and make sure this works now. To do this, we're just going to create a simple table on Supabase that keeps track of the users and their status, whether they are paid customers or not. Okay, I am now in the SQL editor of my Supabase project. I'm going to go ahead and define a table that's called users, and it's going to keep track of the user ID, customer ID, email, created at, and the paid tier of the users. This is what we're going to use to keep track of whether the user is paid or not. And then on top of this, I am going to add indexes just to optimize the table. I am also going to enable row level security so that users can view their own data, create a function that will be called every time a new user is added to the database. And that's just going to insert the new user into public.users table. I'm going to do something similar when the user gets deleted. One thing that I miss is this quote round tree. Make sure this is a single quote, or else Postgres will yell at you. All right, just click run, and I already ran this query, so I'm all good here. What I want to do now is I actually want to grab the database type and bring it in. I'm going to run bunx supabase gen, types TypeScript, project ID, this project ID. You can grab this project ID by going to your Supabase account under project settings and just grab the project ID right here. And then you're going to do -- schema, public, and we're going to output the types into the types/database.d.ts file. So here I'm going to hit that, the database types, and it's going to be right in here. Okay, I created a new admin.ts file under lib supabase directory, and in here, I am going to create an admin client. This client is a Supabase admin. As you can see, I am using the Supabase service role key in our environment. You'll need to define this in your .env.local file. Make sure you do that, or else this will not work. And in this file is where we're going to define all the functions that we need in order to update the public.users table. And these functions are the ones that will be called from the Lemon Squeezy webhooks that we will be implementing in just a moment. Two functions that we're going to add: update customer ID and update paid status. What we're going to do is make sure if the user does not have a customer ID, then we're going to create one and update the record. As for update paid status, this is going to be called in the webhook when the user has successfully paid through Lemon Squeezy. One other function that I'm going to add under Supabase database public directory and under users.ts file is this get customer ID from user ID. I'm going to use this to check whether the user has a customer ID or not. And I'm going to be using it right here under auth callback route.ts file. In here, right under my to-do, I am going to create an after. And what this allows me to do is continue an asynchronous process after the response has been sent back. I'll make sure that there is a user ID here. And then we're going to get the customer ID from the user ID. This is the function that we just created. If there's not a customer ID, I'm going to create a new customer. Once we get the customer, I am going to insert the customer ID straight into the public.users table. All right, let's check out if this actually works. I am going to sign back in, hit login. Going back to the Supabase table editor, I should now see the user. However, the customer ID did not go through. And the reason for this is because we already tried paying with this email address previously. Therefore, if we go here, you can see that I already have the devlogger email registered in Lemon Squeezy. And the one thing I really don't like about this is that there's no way to literally delete this customer. Well, now how do I get the customer ID to update in here? Well, the trick to this is that when the user pays, the payload that comes in with the webhook contains the customer ID as well as the email. Luckily, the email is unique to the user. So what I'm going to do is when I create the checkout URL, I'm going to use the user's email from Supabase. Let's go into the pricing page, and you can see here that checking authorization after creating the checkout link, which is the wrong way around. We should be checking the authorization before the checkout link, and I'm gonna instead grab the user equals await get parent user, and I'm gonna pass in Supabase here, and then remove is authorized, and I'm gonna just check for user, and then const email equals user.email. There we go. And now we have the user's email, and we can just pass email right into this create checkout URL. And this get current user is just a function inside auth.ts file that I have. And it's basically just grabbing the user from Supabase auth. Now, let's go ahead and try the checkout link again. If I hit buy, you can see that it automatically filled in the email that is associated with the Supabase account. I'm going to go ahead and create webhook/payment/route.ts file. Start by adding the imports here. Create the post function. This is going to receive the webhook from Lemon Squeezy. And we're going to make sure to check that we do have Lemon Squeezy webhook secret in our project, because we're going to use that to compare it with whatever is coming in from the request, making sure that this is the same webhook that we should be listening to. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how to set up the Lemon Squeezy webhook on the website in just a moment so that it can talk directly to our Next.js project right here. Obviously, if the digest and signature are not equal, we'll respond with invalid signature. If it's valid, we're going to grab the user email, and that email will go into update paid status. This update paid status, if you remember, this is actually taking in customer ID. We're going to change that in a moment. But first, let's respond with webhook process and status 200 if it reaches this point. All right, let's go ahead and modify the update paid status. All we have to do is I am going to change email equals user email, and this should be paid tier and paid tier. Now we have the webhook set up. Let's go ahead and expose our localhost 3000 webhook payments webhook using ngrok so that we can use that URL and put it into Lemon Squeezy platform. Unfortunately, unlike Stripe, Lemon Squeezy does not have a CLI that exposes all the debugging capabilities. So we're just going to have to use this workaround. It's not a huge deal. It's literally a few command lines that you need to run. You're going to want to install ngrok. I'm on a Mac, so I'm using Brew. And if you're on Windows, you'll want to use Chaka. What this tool allows you to do is expose your local host onto the web. If I go to my terminal and type in ngrok http localhost 3000, it will forward this URL to localhost 3000. I can easily check that by typing that URL straight into the browser, and we can see that if I visit the site, there you go. This is my localhost 3000, but with a public URL. To set the webhooks up so it runs properly, go to Lemon Squeezy, under settings, webhooks. We're going to add a new webhook. And in here, remember that we're going to need to grab the public URL of our localhost 3000, go to the callback URL and paste that in. And remember, we have put the route under webhook/payments. So that's what we're going to add here, webhook/payments. Make sure that this is correct. Otherwise, this will not work. And now for the secret, remember in our environment.local file, I am going to grab the Lemon Squeezy webhook secret, go back here, signing secret, paste that in, tick every single box here, save webhook, and that's basically it. Now, if we actually just hit buy now, before this route gets called, I'm going to console out the body just to make sure that we're actually getting the data that we want. Okay, and then I'm going to hit pay. Let's take a look. Let's see if this webhook will trigger. Okay, the webhook has triggered, and I see the user email is correct. And if we go to the Supabase dashboard under table editor, you'll see that the paid tier is now paid. However, the customer ID has not been filled, and that's exactly what we need to do next. We're going to update customer ID based on email. So we created this update customer ID function, and it takes in a user ID. Instead of a user ID, I'm actually going to make this email. The reason for that is we have no way of getting the user ID in this webhook. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. However, we do have the email, so we can use that. And the email is unique, therefore, it's linked to the user directly, especially when the user signs in with their email address. Okay, and as for customer ID, yep, this looks right. And all I have to do in here is await update customer ID, customer email. And in here, I'm actually going to write const customer ID equals body.data.attribute attributes ID. Let's double check this by going to attribute, and we're going to find customer ID. Here it is, attributes.customer ID. So I can just do that. I don't know why, but I couldn't find the types for this. Lemon Squeezy does not provide the types for this. Let's try it out. I'm going to go back to the Next.js project. Let's go back to pricing and pay myself for the third time. Okay, processing. Now if I refresh this, and now we have the customer ID entered in here. I know this is not the most ideal way of entering the customer ID, but for this application, it's okay. However, if your web application does have like a sign-up form or your users log in through OAuth, you can create the customer as part of that auth flow instead of doing it like this. Remember how we have this question right on our homepage? Let's actually answer it now. Under Supabase database public users.ts file, I'm going to add a function called hasUserPaid. It's basically going to query the database, retrieving the paid tier of the user, and the return of this is going to be whether the paid tier is equal paid. All right, now moving on to the homepage, just a few modifications. Let's create a Supabase client, grab the user, and we're going to call hasUserPaid. And then we're just going to have hasPaid yes or no right here. Going back to the web application, you can see that hasUserPaid, we get a yes. And if I change this back to free and we refresh this page, hasUserPaid, no. Voila. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please smash that like and subscribe button. It really helps me out. It also really lets me know that you really like this type of tutorials. If there's any improvements I can make to my video, please let me know. I really appreciate feedback and comments. I read every single one of them. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.